All right. So I'm currently reading The ISIS Thesis by Judy K. King. But I think we're going to start the road from Orion today, too. And this is nothing but a novel that supports the ISIS thesis, kind of goes along with it, with Judy K. King. So, if you haven't heard the ISIS thesis, jump back over here and check out the ISIS thesis when you get extra time. But for now, the road to Orion. Okay. Ooh. Preface. The corpus of Egyptian funerary texts demonstrates an advanced 21st century knowledge of space physics, quantum physics, molecular biology, supramolecular chemistry, and bacteria genetics. Using this expansive knowledge base, the ancient Egyptians carved a sophisticated symbolic system of art and hieroglyphs into the tombs of the pharaohs and nobilities to disguise their science. The ISIS Thesis, Volume 1, posits that the primary objective of their hidden scientific knowledge was to map the chemical path by which the genetic heritage of the deceased was preserved and vectored into a bioluminescent species that was not recycled back to Earth in the world of photosynthesis, decoding an elaborate network of over 870 signs in 8 different texts spanning 2,000 years. The thesis explains the pharaoh's science of death, made humans into gods by cloning new species. With this knowledge, the pharaohs insist humanity can reinvent itself at death. For humans today, this knowledge may be an alternative to species suicide due to overpopulation, nuclear war, global warming, and mass extinction. The story is a real plot of works of art and fiction. To convey this scientific knowledge to readers, the students that are not scientists or Egyptology scholars, The Road from Orion, Volume 2, is a story supporting the relating to the study based on a surreal plot of fictional characters, historical facts, and great works of art. Using the Egyptian method of providing drawings to aid understanding, the table of contents for the story is modeled on Egyptian Senate game that depicts 30 chapter drawings related to events in the story. Within the text of story, direct quotations of creative artists from renowned works of literature, art, music, and philosophy are designated by italics with the work itself referenced in a short bibliography of the conclusion. These great works of art point to scientific concepts referenced in the thesis and add support to the interpretation, but not valid scientific evidence. Other themes woven within the story's plot address several controversial questions. Is schizophrenia a direct mental experience of the quantum world of atoms? Do hallucinogens allow humans access to the quantum world? Do each of us have an invisible double? Did royal incest enhance the pharaoh's spiritual consciousness? Has our idea of God prevented us from assessing comprehensive wisdom? The thesis, a study of Egyptian ideas and signs. The ISIS thesis begins with an abstract of the study as an advanced organizer. After this, we begin our quest to restore the effaced Egyptian sign so that the pharaoh's lost knowledge is restored to history. Part 1 of the thesis reviewed the method, sources, and the major ideas in the pyramid text and coffin text. Analyzing textual advice, we mapped the pharaoh's path to eternity, discovering space physics evidence for actual energy landscapes that match Egyptian descriptions. Part 2 examines the quantum world of self, for the Egyptian signs are dual signified. Each eternity discovering space physics evidence for actual energy landscapes that match Egyptian descriptions. Part 2 examines the quantum world of the self, for the Egyptian signs are dual signified. We discover that the macroscopic Earth system operates like a tiny bacterium, as the legendary alchemist Hermes Trismegistus said, that is below is like that which is above. Part 3 deconstructs the ambiguity of the book, often called the Egyptian heaven and hell, describing the journey through a black hole protein funnel. Next, we analyze the Book of Gates, another Middle Kingdom text found in the great tombs of the pharaohs. Briefly, we peer into the Book of Caverns. In Part 4, we explore the mystifying Book of Two Ways and still intrigues religious scholars in the New Kingdom edifices of Taharqa and the popular New Kingdom Book of the Dead, including the Tibetan Recension. As a corpus, these texts are unified in their presentation of Egyptian science that centers around predicted chemical events in the afterlife of the deceased. We close our investigation in Part 5 with an evaluation of the Egyptian legacy and its links to string theory, black hole theory, inflationary cosmology, and the world religious perspectives. Covering 8 funerary texts within one book was a massive task that presented several difficulties. The first problem was how to address the large range of interconnected and dual signified signs that had confused scholars for centuries. In an attempt to understand these signs with no intrusions, I became a full-time independent researcher for 3 years, leaving my college, teaching a grant writing career in 2001. This allowed me the opportunity to carefully decode the meaning of the signs and catalog them in matrices with modern science parallels. The second problem was the depth of cutting-edge scientific knowledge embedded in Egyptian texts. Fortunately, non-stop satellite internet access allowed research opportunities anytime, day or night. Also, excellent online university tutorials and courses in biology, chemistry, physics, and genetics deepen my knowledge. Thanks to the efforts of Oswego County Library and their interlibrary loans, I was able to obtain unusual texts such as The Edifice of Taharqa by Richard A. Parker, Jean Leclerc, and Jean-Claude Guyon. Other texts such as Alexander Pinacle's impressive portfolio of plates photographed from the tomb of Ramesses VI were invaluable. The third problem centered on the complexity of the funeral text, which required numerous reviews of each text to resolve the complexity issue and aid research and understanding. I compared the Old Kingdom pyramid text and Middle Kingdom coffin text, listing the major Egyptian themes or idea strands in the appendix for the reader. This should be helpful to critics who have not read the funerary text. However, an ideal critique of the ISIS thesis rests on the critic having read all the funerary texts addressed. Constructive criticism can only result when Egyptologists, scientists, and professionals in related disciplines work together to expand or modify the idea within the work or within this work. Although the thesis addresses more than one scientific discipline, students of general level science, teachers, and professionals should find it interesting. I provided diagrams and matrices along with definitions of scientific terms with text online resources in the reference denoted by the asterisk and a glossary of Egyptian deities and terms to aid understanding. The argument addresses 10 objectives in part 1 through part 4 that guide the reader to conclusions and possibilities in part 5. So, of issues noted in this thesis are more controversial than those of the story. Was the birth of science in Egypt? Can human consciousness exist after death? Can we control our afterlife? Is God a quantum life form modeling complex viral behavior? Although the textual reference and signs taken individually may be vague, the 870 decoded signs as a whole exhibit a unified matrix of Egyptian science that mirrors and surpasses the knowledge of modern scientists. Is the scientific afterlife knowledge of the pharaoh useful to living human beings? That is for you to decide. I began this exploration of the Egyptian afterlife because I believe that the ancient pharaohs possessed knowledge that would shed light on life and death, thereby eliminating the fear of the unknown for humans. My work rewarded me with the knowledge of why ancient kings did not fear death, why they looked upon the world as with cool equanimity that was omniscient and eternal. Although no theory is an absolute theory, this thesis provides a scientific rationale for an afterlife existence that helps one to understand who we are, how our universe works, and what we can become.